Hi, this is Mrs. Bridges Matthew. I am presenting the article that we're going to be focusing on this week as it relates to mastering our Common Core standards of tracing and evaluating the argument and specific claims in a text, assessing whether the reasoning is sound and the evidence is relevant and sufficient to support claims. That's RI 7.8, and then we have SL 7.4, present claims and findings, emphasizing salient points in a focused, coherent manner with pertinent descriptions, facts, details, and examples. Use appropriate eye contact, adequate volume, and clear pronunciation. SL 7.2, analyze the main ideas and supporting details presented in diverse media and formats, visually, quantitatively, orally, and explain how the ideas clarify a topic, text, or issue under study. And those are our main power reading standards. And for our ELD students, ELL, ESOL students, our language objective, I will read, listen to the passage to understand the meaning of the informational text, which is looking good, the psychology and biology of beauty. By answering aloud the answers to group questions, you will also answer comprehension questions in a written format. I will cite the evidence from the text by writing the sentences from the text that supports my answers to the questions. So these are just a few things. There are other lessons that will be scaffolded into this lesson, but the main lesson is to be able to understand that power reading standard of being able to cite several pieces of textual evidence to support your claims and analysis. So basically, to be able to communicate what you've read and be able to support your opinions as through evidence in what's written, and as well as things that come from things that you've already learned in the past or things that you may have researched. All right, so getting to the article. As you notice, the article, and I'm just going to scroll down here. This is where the article comes from, and my students will have this article on their desk, and it is visually appealing. It does have some graphics here, but it is a bit long. It doesn't seem so as much on the web. However, for English language learners, it can be a little overwhelming, as well as for kids who are considered level 1 or special needs. So I did take the time to break down the text in a PowerPoint format, which I've added some pictures to it to kind of illustrate, and then the students will independently and in partners work on comprehension and responses to the article. All right, so here we go with the actual article, and I am on what we call Screencast-O-Matic. So I might have to, I'm sorry, let me go back. This is the title, and I don't know if everything is showing up in the window. Let me see if I can make the window a little bigger or either drop it down some. Well, this is the article by Charles Fang. It is in the Human Biology, Stanford University, issue 6, December 2002. So, of course, it was almost 11 years ago. The title is Looking Good, the Psychology and Biology of Beauty. And what we can notice is one of the very famous models in America on the cover, and that's also used in the article, Cindy Crawford. And she's an example of someone who has symmetry. And we've already reviewed this word in class, so we're going to move on from there. Okay, I'm just going to move this up a little bit. Okay, so the article begins with a hook. It says, in ancient Greece, Helen of Troy, the instigator of the Trojan War, was the paragon of beauty, exuding a physical brilliance that would put Cindy Crawford to shame. Indeed, she was the toast of Athens, celebrated not for her kindness or her intellect, but for her physical perfection. But why did the Greek men find Helen and other beautiful women so intoxicating? In an attempt to answer this question, the philosophers of the day devoted a great deal of time to this conundrum. Plato wrote of so-called golden proportions in which, amongst other things, the width of an ideal face would be two-thirds its length, while a nose would be no longer than the distance between the eyes. Plato's golden proportions, however, haven't quite held up to the rigors of modern psychological and biological research, though there is credence in the ancient Greeks' attempts to determine a fundamental symmetry that humans find attractive. Today, the symmetry has been scientifically proven to be inherently attractive to the human eye. It has been defined not with proportions, but rather with similarity between the left and right sides of the face. Thus, the Greeks were only partially correct. By applying the stringent conditions of the scientific method, researchers now believe symmetry is the answer the Greeks were looking for. Babies spend more time staring at pictures of symmetric individuals than they do at photos of asymmetric ones. Moreover, when several faces are averaged to create a composite, thus covering up the asymmetries that any one individual may have, a panel of judges deemed the composite more attractive than the individual pictures. Victor Johnson of New Mexico State University, for example, utilizes a program called Face Prints, which shows viewers facial images of variable attractiveness. The viewers then rate the pictures on a beauty scale from 1 to 9. In what is akin to digital Darwinism, the pictures with the best ratings are merged together, while the less attractive photos are weeded out. Each trial ends when a viewer deems the composite a 10. All the perfect 10s are super symmetric. Scientists say that the preference for symmetry is a highly evolved trait seen in many different animals. Female swallows, for example, prefer males with longer and more symmetric tails, while female zebra finches mate with males with symmetrically colored leg bands. The rationale behind symmetry preference in both humans and animals is that symmetric individuals have a higher mate value. Scientists believe that this symmetry is equated with a strong immune system. Thus, beauty is indicative of more robust genes, improving the likelihood that an individual's offspring will survive. This evolutionary theory is supported by research showing that standards of attractiveness are similar across cultures. However, John Manning of the University of Liverpool in England cautions against overgeneralization, especially by Western scientists. Oh, Darwin thought that there were few universals of physical beauty because there was such variance in appearance and preference across human groups. Manning, explained in an email interview, for example, Chinese men used to prefer women with small feet. In Shakespearean England, ankles were the rage. In some South African tribal cultures, men like women who insert large discs in their lips. Indeed, we need more cross-cultural studies to show that what is true in westernized societies is also true in traditional groups, Manning said in his 1999 article. Aside from symmetry, males in Western cultures generally prefer females with a small jaw, small nose, large eyes, and defined cheekbones, features often described as baby face that resemble an infant's. Females, however, have a preference for males who look more mature, generally heart-shaped, small chin faces with full lips and fair skin. But during menstruation, females prefer a soft-featured male to a muscular one. Indeed, researchers found that female perceptions of beauty actually change throughout the month. When viewing profiles, both males and females prefer a face in which their forehead and jaw are in vertical alignment. Altogether, the preference for youthful and even infant-like features, especially by menstruating women, suggests people with these features have more long-term potential as mates, as well as an increased level of reproductive fitness. Scientists have also found that the body's proportions play an important role in perceptions of beauty as well. In general, men have a preference for women with low waist-to-hip ratios, WHRs, that is more adipose or fat is deposited on the hips and buttocks than on the waist. Research shows that women with high WHRs, whose bodies are more tube-shaped, are more likely to suffer from the health maladies, including infertility and diabetes. However, as is often the case, there are exceptions to the rule. Psychologists at Newcastle University in England have shown that indigenous people located in southeast Peru who have had little contact with this Western world actually have a preference for high WHRs. These psychologists assert that a general preference for low WHRs is a byproduct of Western culture. Psychological research suggests that people generally choose mates with a similar level of attractiveness. The evolutionary theory is that by mating with someone who has similar genes, one's own genes are conserved. Moreover, a person's demeanor and personality also influences how others perceive his or her beauty. In one study, 70% of college students deemed an instructor physically attractive when he acted in a friendly manner, while only 30% found him attractive when he was cold and distant. Indeed, when surveyed for attributes in selecting a mate, both males and females felt kindness and an exciting personality were more important in a mate than good looks. Thus, to a certain degree, beauty truly is in the eye of the beholder. Douglas Yu of the University of East Anglia in Northwich, England agrees. It's true by definition. Beauty is always judged by the receiver, he says. At the same time, he says in an email, there is inter-observer concordance, a measure of objectivity, so that individual perceptions of beauty, factoring in other characteristics such as personality and intelligence, can often be aggregated to form a consensus opinion. One of the offshoots of Yu's work in ethnobiology was a piece in Nature in 1998 that showed that the hourglass body standard of beauty in women, previously thought to be universally preferred, was in fact likely swayed by advertising. In society, attractive people tend to be more intelligent, better adjusted, and more popular. This is described as the halo effect, due to the perfection associated with angels. Research shows attractive people also have more occupational success and more dating experience than other unattractive counterparts. One theory behind this halo effect is that it is accurate. Attractive people are indeed more successful. An alternate explanation for attractive people. Achieving more in life is that we automatically categorize others before having an opportunity to evaluate their personalities. Based on cultural stereotypes, we say attractive people must be intrinsically good and ugly people must be inherently bad. But Elliot Aronson, a social psychologist at Stanford University, believes self-fulfilling prophecies in which a person's confident self-perception, further perpetuated by healthy feedback from others, may play a role in success as well. Aronson suggests, based on the self-fulfilling prophecy, that people who feel they are attractive, though not necessarily rated as such, are just as successful as their counterparts, who are judged to be good-looking. Whatever the reason, the notion that attractiveness correlates with success still rings true. Yet beauty is not always advantageous. For beautiful people, particularly attractive women, tend to be perceived as more materialistic, snobbish, and vain. For better or worse, the bottom line is that research shows beauty matters. It pervades society and affects how we choose loved ones. Thus, striving to appear attractive may not be such a vain endeavor after all. This isn't to say plastic surgery is necessarily the answer. Instead, lead a healthy lifestyle that will in turn make you a happier person. Now, I want to know, what is your opinion? So I want you to turn to your neighbor and have a conversation for the next 3 to 5 minutes. And then I want you to support your conclusion with evidence from the article um, right now. You will do the research later. You can also talk about your life experience with your partner. You do have a copy of this article on your desk, or if you are online, you can view a copy of this article at the following link. that is located right here. And for further reading, this is some extra information. It's also listed on that link that I had previously posted here. All right, thank you.